Greetings and welcome back to Smartwatch Tics. We're going to explore flashing firmware for these two specific watches today, the LES1 and the Zeblaze THOR. In an earlier video where we compared these two, we mentioned that there's new firmware out for both of them that affects the watch faces on the watches, or the clock skin engine that is used to generate the watch faces that you see. So we're going to show you quickly, again, the view of what it looks like now before flashing. Then we're going to flash. Then we're going to show you if there's any changes in the watch faces in particular, and talk a little bit about it. So I have the LES1 and the THOR. I've done a factory restore on both of them, and good news, at this version of Android 5.1 and its implementation on these watches, when you do a full factory restore, it does appear to wipe out everything. So if you had custom watch faces in there, personal data, pictures, audio, movies, whatever, it's going to be completely wiped out and restored to literally just the way you bought it. So if you want to sell it or give it away, you don't have to worry about some of your data lingering. I hope. At least that's what it looks like to me. I'll show you what I mean when we go to File Manager. Let's begin. Flashing firmware. It's a pretty easy process, and I already have videos up there that show how to do it looking at a computer screen. I'm going to give you some highlights now while we look at the watch faces that came stock on the LES1. And as we get into this, I want you to make note of this address. In fact, if you're at your computer and you can bring this up and create yourself an account, a password, and log in, do so now. And roam over to where you'll find the firmware for all the different watches, because we're going to be talking about that here. Okay, roundandroidwatches.proboards.com. Go there now. It's where you're going to get what you need to do this, and the correct what you need. The firmware on that site has been verified to work correctly on these watches. All right. That's the opening face that comes with the LES1 from LEMFO. Just going to walk through these and mention to you now that there's like three aspects you got to go through for flashing firmware. The first thing you have to do is prepare your computer for the job. All right? Your computer has to be a Windows machine. It won't work on a Macintosh or Linux or any of the others that I know of, anyway, with the data that we've got. You need a Windows machine. And you probably don't want Vista or XP, so let's presume you're using a Windows 7 or Windows 10. If you have Windows 7, the job's pretty easy for you. You're going to go to a collection of files and download those things from that source, and in there you're going to find drivers. Drivers are the little piece of code that lets a computer talk to a peripheral, like a watch or something else. And there's special drivers that are needed to be installed on the computer in order for your computer to talk data correctly with your watch. Okay? Those drivers are pretty easy. You just download them into your computer and you put them where they belong. And again, there's information on how to do that. That's a computer issue, not a watch issue. I focus on watches. I don't know much about the computer, and especially about Windows. But a lot of people do. There's instructions on the Proboards. Install the drivers on your Windows 7 machine to get it ready before you do anything else. If you have Windows 10, everything I just said applies, with one little caveat. These drivers that you get for these watches are not signed drivers. They're unsigned. What does that mean? Well, it means a bit of headaches for you, first of all. Windows 10 is looking at a tighter security, so it requires drivers for all these different devices to be licensed, I guess, to Microsoft somehow, and signed, which means there's a code in them that is recognized by Windows as being valid, and Windows will allow them to be installed. These drivers are not signed, and therefore they cannot be installed. So what you have to do is go to a special process on Windows 10 to turn off the requirement for the drivers to be signed. Then you can install unsigned drivers. How you do that? There's instructions and information all over the web. Not here, guys. You're talking to the wrong person for for installing drivers on a Windows machine. I can tell you about the watches. That's about it. But do it, do it and get the drivers installed on your Windows 10 machine before you go any further, because you'll need the drivers to talk to the watch. Unless they're already in there, and you'll know if you can connect the watch, whether it's 10 or 7, you can connect the watch in and you can transfer data back and forth. If you can move music files and stuff from your computer to your watch already, you probably don't even need any of this drivers stuff. You just go to the next step, which we're about to cover. But if you can't and you need the drivers, they have to be installed first. When you go into File Manager here on the LES1, you notice what it says, that we've got 12.35, is that? Gigabytes of space available, and it's used 0.49. So out of 16 gigabytes, subtract 12.35, and that's the overhead that your watch needs out of its total memory to include the operating system, the firmware, special apps if there are any, and whatever other overhead that they've layered onto the watch to make it work as a watch. Your remaining 12.35 gigabytes, that's what you've got to use. Okay, now the last thing we want to talk about here is the version that we're using. And we go into settings all the way down to about this watch. And we're going to come down here and look at the kernel and build number. Take a look at those, Tuesday, February 14th, 2017. That's the version that's running on here. And we talk about flashing or updating your firmware. This is where you do it. Or this is what it looks like and how you can tell what version you've got. If you try to do this online, you would go here to the wireless update, hit that thing, and it would do an OTA, over-the-air push of firmware to your watch to update it. What we're doing is flashing fresh, new firmware. And I think you have to do that in this case because of the radical change in the watch engine, the clock skin engine that's inside of it. So the wireless update, at least for me, for both of these, has not worked. I have to flash manually, which is why I'm talking about flashing. Okay, we're going to leave it right here on this watch and come back to that after we flash the firmware. On the Thor, we're going to go through and show you the installed watch faces that are here. You notice, if you've been watching, that there's bubbles moving in here, that several of these watch faces on the Thor are using live wallpaper, which is pretty cool. Didn't know you could do that, and it's not been done on this one or any of the others that I've seen. So this is something new. Hopefully it'll be kept when the firmware is flashed and maybe added to the other ones. If that is a new thing coming out, we'll find out. Let's look at some of the others, and I'm going to linger a little longer because these are floating live wallpapers, and they're kind of fun to see because we need to talk about the next step of flashing firmware. Let's say you got your drivers all installed in your PC and you're ready now to think about flashing. You're going to need to install a piece of code, an application called SP Flash Tools. Is that it? SP Tools? That's the application that you run on your PC that will let it flash the firmware to your watch. Those files are here. Go there and get it. Download it and follow the procedures that are either on the Proboards or in the videos that I've given you before. Some of those procedures include running it in administrator mode rather than just straight mode, making sure you bring in the scatter file from the firmware that's for this particular watch, and making sure you're in download only, not download in format. You do not want to format the watch. If you do that, you can wipe out your IMEI, which is a special code that's tied to your phone number and watch that identifies to your carrier that it's a valid phone number capable watch that you can use for making phone calls. If you wipe out your IMEI, you got a bunch of problems, and you will wipe it out if you choose anything except just download only on the choices. Okay, so you got your SP Flash tools running. You've got, there we go, this has gotten fixed now that I did the factory restore. If you remember in the last video, I couldn't show you this one. So I'm going to leave it here for a minute while we talk about the rest of the flashing stuff. You've got your SP Flash tools running. You've loaded the scatter file. You've got it all set for downloads. You've got a wire plugged into your USB port on your computer, but not attached to your watch. You're making sure you turn your watch completely off. Watch is off. Wire is connected to the computer. SP Flash Tools is there. And you hit that download button to start it, and it's looking for the watch at this point, okay? The software's running, the scatter file's ready to load, everything's good to go. You snap the little connector right onto the back and don't touch it. Get it on there, leave it alone. You don't want it to go intermittent, and watch your computer screen. And on your computer screen, you should see a bar appear across the bottom that's a progress bar. And when the bar is completed, it should give you a nice big green box that says, okay, you're done. And at that point, you can disconnect your watch, reboot it. I don't just reboot, I shut down. And then after a cold shutdown, I start it up again with holding the button on the side. Make sure it's just totally off and reboots. Let it reboot. It's going to take a long time because it has to do magic in the background. I don't know, unpack the firmware, install it, install other little pieces. The first time it's going to take forever. It's not stuck. Go have a cup of coffee. Do something, Come back in a little while. Let it do its thing in turning itself on that first time till it comes up and shows you its initial watch face. And you should have successfully flashed your firmware. All right. By way of recap, you are first going to need to install. First, there's a camera. I'm lecturing like I'm talking to a class. You're first out there going. First, you want to download your drivers and set up your PC. Second, you want to load up the SP Flash Tools, I think that's the name of it, software application on your PC and run that thing, okay? And get it all configured, get everything set up. That's the second thing. Third thing is you want to connect your turned off watch to the wire that's connected to your computer. That's it. The process should run smoothly on its own. When it's completed, disconnect your watch. You don't have to necessarily shut the program down or shut your computer down. You can just take the wire off your watch once you got that green box on the screen. And you have a flashed watch. All right, we are looking at, there's a lot more stock watch faces, including the live wallpaper ones on the Thor than there were on the LES1. It's basically the same watch. No, I'm not going to tell you you can flash the Thor firmware to the LES1 watch. I'm not going to tell you that, nor am I going to tell you you can do it the other way. I will tell you that you want to make sure you've practiced flashing your correct firmware at least once, and you know that you can restore your watch back to working conditions just in case something goes wrong and it doesn't come out, correctly. You got to make sure you could just start all over again and flash it with the correct firmware. So let's do it. I still got to show you this one, don't I? Getting excited. In File Manager, this is what we've got here, 12.30 and 0.53 gigabytes used. We gave you the discussion of what that all means. That's how much you've got to work with. And then finally, we have in the settings about this watch, we have this information. Settings about watch. This information. So these are the versions on both the LES1 and the Zeblaze THOR. I am now going to go and flash both of these and come back to this screen, and in a moment you're going to see the new version of the firmware showing on this screen. Here's the update now completed for the LES1. It says the kernel version is Monday, May 15th, and there's the build number. And it's reset to 15 seconds timeout, so forcing me to be quick. All right, we'll take a quick look at the faces installed. There's the beginning one, another one. And again, if you compare this with the early part of the video, you can tell if there's been any new ones added. As far as I can tell, I don't think so. So I took a quick look at these. And of course, I haven't set the time. We aren't on the internet. It's just straight out of the firmware update. So what you're looking at is what you'd get right after updating. Been about 15 minutes since I did that, because I did the this one first. All right. And these are the watch faces that are installed now. Oftentimes, the watch faces are shifted or updated in a firmware update. Now, what does this mean in terms of a change in the watch face appearance on these the LES1, the clock engine itself, its modifications? We don't know. That's to be determined when the watch face designers start creating new faces that take advantage of whatever changes are in here. One thing we do know, though, is that the clock skin folder is now automatically on the watch. At least that's what's supposed to be. Let's check it out. Why not? We're here. Let's go down to File Manager. Okay, this is now the new numbers of what's in here. And we tap on it. And sure enough, there's clock skin. There's nothing in it, but the folder is already created. No need for capitalization anymore. Just one word, clock skin. Sweet. That's where you drop your watch face designs, and the folders that have the clock skin code would be inside that folder, and they would automatically appear when you reboot your watch. All right, that's the LES1. The Thor now, this is right off the computer, so this is what it looks like when it first boots up. It asks you what land. It's already happened on the LES1. It also happened after the factory restore. I figure I'd show it to you once. It asks you to confirm your language. Then it asks you to put in your weight, height, and walking target along with gender. And then it gives you this QR code to scan. That's the app that you would use for tethering, the limited tethering you have with these Android watches, but that's what you'd use. You swipe out of that, and you're back to your opening watch face. And we go back to the very beginning. And let's take a look. Let's see what's changed, if any, in the Thor. This is our live wallpaper. Good to see it's still there. That's nice. This is the one that'll have the leaves falling. Takes it a moment to get started. There goes one. Yeah. Again, we only have 15 seconds before the timeout. The one with the mountains. This one here. And then these are the stock faces installed that don't have the actual live wallpaper, but just have background. So far, they're all looking the same, I believe. So again, the update, in addition to possibly some bug fixes, modified somehow the clock engine inside. I'm really hoping that the modifications are identical between both of them. And it should be. If you want more information about the firmware updates and the clock engine, again, go to roundwatchfacesproboards.com. Check out what Pablo 11 has written about it, and follow what he's doing on there. And he's been instrumental in getting this clock engine updated. It's been some little critical tweaks that needed to be put to it, and he's really trailblazed that thing through for us behind the scenes. And in terms of what's inside the watch now, in File Manager, you can see we are at 12.44 gigabytes available space. And, settings. There we are. About the watch. And our new kernel version, Monday, May 15th, with that build number. So there you have it. That is the firmware update process on the LES1 and the Thor. One more time, quickly. You go and set up an account on Round Android Watches Proboards.com and download the firmware for the specific watch you own that you want to flash. Get the package of software that is needed for doing the job. To heck with that, I'll let them time out. The software includes drivers for your PC, an application called SP Flash Tool, and the firmware itself. Then you just go through the process that we've talked about here, they talk about there, and a lot of people know about, and you hook it up to your PC, you flash the firmware. Make sure you back up any data or information that you want from your watch before you flash, because it'll be gone. I recommend you do a factory restore first. Just a good practice. Do the factory restore, then do the flash, and then when you take the watch off after flashing, it'll still be off. So you just press it to turn it on, and that's when it'll take a long time to boot up the first time. You don't actually have to reboot it like I was saying before. I thought that it was on, but it's been a while since I've done that. So after you take it off of the computer, after that green box shows up, it'll be in the off condition. Just press and hold, turn it on, wait 5 minutes, let it come back up and stabilize, and then you're able to do whatever you want to do. Load it back up with your own software. All right, thank you for watching Smartwatch Tics. This one's a bit technical, but some folks really want to get into this. And as we discover what changes are there for the watch faces, I'll show you some, hopefully, new creations that will be coming down from our ace developers out there. Please subscribe if you haven't, and get ready. More is coming. Take care. Well, that went pretty nice. Okay, put these back away. Oh, bye. We're done here. Nothing to see. Move along, move along. La 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 la. Okay. Bye. Have they gone yet? You sure? Uh-oh. Did I get my tags on wrong? That says LES1, but that's the Thor, right? That's, yeah. Okay, so this must be the LES1, right? I wonder what happened here. Well, that's interesting. I guess I can flash the Thor firmware to the LES1.